Good evening and welcome to the Town Board of the Town of Austin special meeting and work session for Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. And please remain standing after the pledge for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Observe a moment of silence for all those who were lost or injured in the tragic mosque shooting in Christchurch, New Zealand. Thank you. I wish these moments could add up to a solution to end gun violence worldwide as we mourn the loss of innocent victims of hate crimes. We must continue to work together on solutions to reduce these incidents and whatever we can at all levels of government. Okay. Doing the roll call?
Yes. Councilmember DeTore?
Present.
Councilmember Shaw?
Present.
Councilmember Feldman?
Present.
Councilmember Wilshire?
Present.
Supervisor Levenberg?
Present. Okay, so we're going to start with some announcements. Does anyone else feel that the weather is finally warming up a little? A little tiny bit. Maybe. Anyway, this means, even if you don't feel it, that it is time for baseball and softball season. So sign up soon for Austin JCYS Spring Youth Baseball and Softball. Opening day is April 6th. Probably fields permitting, which will be here before you know it. Register at OsneyJCYSLL, I guess for LittleLeague.com. On Thursday, March 21st, join your friends and neighbors at Mike Risco Music on Croton Avenue for open mic night. Starting at 8 p.m., come to this free event and hear some Austin locals rock out. You could be one of them if you sign up in advance by calling 762-8757 or sending a note to mail@riscomusic.com. Get your tickets now for next weekend's performance of The Outsiders, Theater O's middle school winter production. I got a sneak peek of the set last night and some of the kids who will be performing, and it looks like it is bound to be fantastic. The play by Christopher Sergel, based on the novel by S.E. Hinton, is a powerful drama about friendship, class identity, and young people who are not yet hopeless about latent decency in the midst of struggle. I wish we weren't all hopeless about that, but unfortunately some of us are. Performances will be held at the Bethany Arts Community on March 21st through 23rd at 7 p.m. Tickets are $10 and can be purchased at theatero.org. Next Saturday, March 23rd at 7:30 p.m., Good Choice Kitchen welcomes local musicians Fred Gillen Jr. and Sarah Brown for an evening of live music. Both Fred and Sarah will perform solo, then combine their prolific singer-songwriter talents as a duo, joining their poetic folk styles for what is sure to be an excellent performance. On Monday, March 25th, village historian Dana White will present the history of Croton Avenue at the Elks Lodge, which also happens to be on Croton Avenue. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. for this fundraiser to benefit Greater Austin TV and all the folks that do wonderful work for us back there, like Tom Campanella, Sue Donnelly, and Catherine, whose last name I don't have in my head right now. $15 per person includes one glass of house wine, and there will be a cash bar and light refreshments available. On Thursday, March 28th at 7 p.m., author, actor, activist, and radio host Malachi McCourt, brother of the late and legendary author Frank McCourt, will be visiting the Austin Public Library's Boudars Theater to discuss his newest book, Death Need Not Be Fatal, and share his musings on life with his trademark wit. Copies of the book will be available courtesy of the Village Bookstore in Pleasantville. On Wednesday, April 3rd at 7:30 p.m., visit the Chatham Yacht Club for the Ferry Sloops event Sing Sing, a History. Austin Village historian Dana White will be walking us through the surprising ways that our famous prison has shaped the village and give an update on the Sing Sing Prison Museum project. Come at 6:30 with a dish to share and enjoy a potluck supper. The event is free and all are welcome. April 15th is right around the corner, and you know what that means. If you need some help preparing your 2018 taxes, check out this program at the Austin Public Library. I don't know what this program is because I don't have the information, but it's probably on the Austin Public Library website.
The AARP.
Oh, the AARP.
And then you can.
And then I was going to also
Yeah.
say about IFCA.
Yep.
IFCA also has VITA, or Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program for those who qualify, and you can reach them at 941-5252. Finally, as you get a jump start on spring cleaning this weekend, don't forget to sign up for the Green Austin Community-Wide Tag Sale on May 4th. For $25, you will receive a double-sided sign to advertise the sale, as well as a link to your home and the items you have for sale through the Green Austin website, and inclusion in social media and penny saver promotion for the sale. Learn more at greenaustin.org. The deadline to register is April 19th. Do you have any other announcements?
Yes, I do. The second annual ENU Youth Expo will be on Saturday, March 23rd from 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Ossining High School. And also I want to give a shout out to the high school students in science research. They had their WestF competition over the weekend, and we had 58 awards given to Ossining students. There were 671 competitors from 41 different schools. And most importantly, we had 3 Ossining students who will be going on to the international competition. Only 12 kids are chosen, and 3 were from Ossining. So congrats to all of them.
Can you just say what the time of that event is?
9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay, fantastic. Are there announcements? Okay. So we are moving into our board resolutions, correct? Okay.
Good.
Yeah, we're going to do that real quick, and then we'll get into our work session.
Okay, so the first resolution is Resolution A, declaring vehicle as surplus and authorizing disposal. Resolved that the town of Ossining hereby declares the following vehicles as surplus equipment and authorizes disposal in accordance with New York State law by sale or otherwise as is. Parks Department, GMC 550 dump body style. Highway Department, Elgin Pelican P9100S, Dodge 3500 utility style, International 7400 dump body, Chevy 3500 dump body, Jeep Cherokee, a Western plow, and a Mohawk lift. In the building department, a 2007 Chevy Impala.
And that's it. Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So we're declaring 9 vehicles from our parks, highway, and building departments as surplus, and we will be putting them up for auction later this week. Hopefully within the next few weeks, we will get some interested bidders, and we will be able to sell some of this older equipment that is no longer of use to the town. We will benefit from both the space this will free up as well as the revenue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Letter B, resolution retirement credit for elected and appointed officials. Be it resolved that the town of Ossining, 30042, hereby establishes the following standard work days for these titles and will report the officials to the New York State and local retirement system based on their record of activities. Receiver of taxes, Holly Perlowitz, 1/1/18 to 12/31/21, 23.95. Town board member Jackie Shaw, 1/1/19 to 12/31/22, 5.79.
Do I have a motion?
Sorry, just really quickly. I was sitting here arguing with myself about this, but I think I came up with the right answer. For Councilman Shaw, it should be 1/1/19 through 12/31/21 because it was an unexpired term, so it was only 3 years.
Okay, so friendly amendment.
As amended.
For the New York State and local retirement systems, all employees that do not have a standard timekeeping system, for example, a set number of sick, personal, and vacation days, like elected officials, must keep a calendar of their activity for 3 months at the beginning of their terms so their time and service can be accurately reported to the retirement system. As our tax receiver Holly Perlowitz and town board member Jackie Shaw fit in this category and recently started their new terms, the town board must adopt their record of activities to be reported to the retirement system. This is a bit of a complicated process and formula, so thank you to Maddie Zahatch and Victoria Caffarelli, who are both here this evening in my office, for coordinating this effort to get our elected officials reported correctly to the retirement system. And the dates, Holly's dates are definitely correct.
So we did not do one at the beginning of Holly's term, so
Okay.
this is going back to last year to
Okay.
be for Holly,
Right.
and then this is for last year and this year for Jackie.
Okay. All right. So fantastic. So as amended, do I have a second for as amended?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, fair enough. You don't have to, but that's fine. You certainly can.
Okay, letter C, Town of Ossining budget adjustments. The following adjustments are on file in the clerk's office.
So do you have a motion for budget adjustments?
Second.
All those, with less than 2 weeks until the audit team from O'Connor Davies joins us at 16 Croton Avenue, we still have a bit of legwork to do before they arrive. These budget adjustments should be some of the last. Special thanks to Deputy Town Comptroller Dale Ferreira for staying on top of this and making sure we are all squared away just in time for the audit. Any questions, discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Letter D, Resolution 64 Gordon Avenue. Whereas it recently came to the town board's attention that the deed dated July 9, 1998, by which the town conveyed the property known as 64 Gordon Avenue to the current owner of the property at auction, was never recorded in the office of the county clerk. And whereas the town board desires to record a deed reflecting the transaction, and now therefore be it resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute a revised deed confirming the conveyance of the property effective July 9, 1998, and any other documents necessary to facilitate the recording of the deed.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
The resolution is relatively self-explanatory. The property owner reached out to the town when they were looking to sell. It's a vacant lot of land, and it turns out that for whatever reason that predates most of us, the deed was never recorded, and so there's a gap in the chain of title, and so we're just trying to tie up loose ends.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? May I have a motion to go into our work session?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. So we are going to switch the order around a little bit from what is on the page, and I'm going to ask Gail Marchica, the president of the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce, to come join us. A few weeks back, I was approached by Gail and the Chamber about working together to see how we could improve and diversify our summer evenings on the Hudson. While everyone knows we have a concert series, the bands do not tend to start until 6:30 or 7 p.m., and we were searching for a way to keep folks, many of whom may otherwise hop onto a train, ferry, or into their cars for a long commute in Ossining, to enjoy our local culture, shopping, music, and those legendary sunsets. I invited Gail Marchica to join us this evening to discuss some of these ideas and to see how we can try some new initiatives this summer, and whatever else you wanted to talk to us about.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You should have three different pieces of paper, or a couple of them are stapled. One is a map. The other is a draft vendor application. And the other is a copy of the application that we use at the Chamber for the Village Fair for sponsorship. So these are some of the items we were talking about last week as far as the concert series was concerned. So I thought I'd actually maybe just go ahead so we had something to work from for our discussion. We had a couple of healthy discussions last week, and what I gleaned from the conversations was that the town was looking to have the concert series again this year on the waterfront, and the possibility of maybe doing things a little differently, but yet keeping it within the spirit of what's been done in the past. So if you look at the map, I had made some suggestions last week. The village fair in and of itself, when we work at it at the chamber, is a mammoth undertaking. We have 200 vendors, 4 music stages. We started a beer and wine garden about 2 years ago that was highly successful, and we continue to build every year. But one of the main thrusts that we always keep in the back of our minds is safety. We always want everybody to have a good time, but we want to certainly have a safe environment for everyone. And so while everybody was having fun, we are watching what's going on along with the police department to make sure that everybody's doing what they need to do, and everyone is where they need to be. So last week, Dana and I were discussing the possibility of laying things out over at Angle Park with a similar concept that we use for the Village Fair, but yet still maintaining some of the spirit of what's been done over the years. So if you take a look at this, if you notice in the bottom left-hand corner, and certainly as we do this, if we decide to use this particular map, we'll do it up on some awesome technology, but I just drew it out by hand for the sake of the conversation. Bottom left corner, to create a food, wine, and beer garden, which is next to a bathroom or within close proximity to a bathroom. If beer or wine, those are the only two things that could be served under the SLA, the State Liquor Authority off-premise license for an event like this, must be near a bathroom. So they're going to ask for a map, and we're going to have to say it's right near the bathroom and everything is in close proximity. It's within this beer and wine garden. And whether we decide to use food trucks or use food vendors who are renting a space for like a 10 by 10 tent, for example, we let them know this is where it is. The X's in that area, we can actually fence that off somewhat with a storm fence, just so people know they don't walk behind the trucks, because there's a lot of equipment back there that's hot and it's flammable and all that. So there'll be generators and electricity running. In front of that would be tables, picnic tables, so people could grab something to eat if they wanted to indulge in the garden, and then sit at the tables. They can enjoy the concert from there, or just eat and then go back to their blanket, or take the food back to their blanket, whatever they would like to do, or chairs that are set up on the grass. The grassy area, we had a couple of conversations. The possibility of fencing in the grassy area so we don't have alcohol walking outside over by the Boat and Canoe Club or anywhere past the grassy area, but we can certainly talk about that if that's a little too stringent for this purpose. So everything really would be contained in that area as far as the beer and wine and the food, trucks, booths, and so on. As I understand it, the parking area pretty much empties out around 7 o'clock when Metro North lets out. We're hoping to really get this out and blast it out on social media so that we can get people coming home to stay and eat and have a good time and watch the concert, as well as others in the area, such as maybe employees from the school district or employees from Open Door, anybody working in the area, to come on down and stay. So starting time, we can talk about that as we go on, if it's something we want to move forward on, starting and ending time, to be able to get enough people down there and peak interest. Something that came up in discussion last week, I know that July 3rd, we actually do the fireworks on July 3rd, and then there's a concert scheduled for July 5th. We may want to consider not having that concert since it's so close in proximity to July 3rd. And people are either doing family stuff for the weekend, having their own barbecues. The whole idea is to be able to garner some sort of interest and get a lot of people down there. So we talked about the possibility of maybe not doing July 5th, but also to maybe cutting out a couple of more concerts so that we could really pack the house on the days that we are having the concert. And certainly that's up for discussion. But we want to work within the spirit of what has been happening and not, give less. So the idea is quality over quantity, and be able to get a lot of people down there, as many as we can. I know that we had, and don't quote me, approximately 23 bands that signed up to play or to play. Yeah. And from what I understand, with having conversation with Mike Risco, there were quite a few of them, that were major production companies and entertainment companies. So they really wouldn't fall within our budget. So not to exclude those who maybe wouldn't be chosen to play.
Just to clarify, I don't think that that's the accurate. I think some of them came through promoters, so they may or may not have been local bands. They may or may, I don't know if it's true that they weren't within our budget though. I just know that they came from promoters.
Right, they did come from,
Actually
promo-
did
yeah.
the concert series bands as a committee. Almost
Okay.
all of them are local
Okay.
and have their own draw from different parts of our community.
And how many are left over?
There are none left over. We don't barely have enough spaces.
No. How many bands were not chosen? Is that
A
what you
lot.
meant?
Yeah.
Left over. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite a few. Right.
Right.
That
So
23, I think. I mean, I do actually
There were 9 weeks.
have the
there were 9, right?
which the bands were selected, which I don't want to actually announce quite yet because I don't think we're totally finished figuring that
I
out.
think they figured out the exact what dates everybody was.
Right.
So
right.
before I really don't want to make that announcement at this point, but
Well,
your point is that there were bands left over.
right. So
let's
if
go
we're
with that.
looking at numbers and we would like to include some of those bands, what we were thinking is maybe having them play at the Village Fair, and set up another area for them to play, and so we don't have to turn anybody away if there was anybody who we still wanted to use.
Do you pay the bands to play at Village Fair?
We have sponsorship for the bands that play, so we don't actually pay them through the chamber. PAL has been very generous in sponsoring bands, and we had a couple of other sponsors as well. So if those bands are left, just a thought, we could probably use them at the Village Fair and set up a
There were
venue
a
for
lot
them
of
to play.
bands.
Okay.
Local bands. All kinds of bands.
Yep. So the music was one part. If we go to the draft, what I did was Victoria Caffarelli was very gracious in giving me the application that I think was used last year in the past. And what I did was
I don't think it was. Just again, it was. I think that it was a suggested application. Victoria, can you just comment? It was that the application that you sent.
Yeah, there were 2 different ones. One was a sample application from another village, I believe,
Yeah, and
that you
for-
sent
for the food
for the food
trucks?
truck for the vendors. Yes. No bands.
Did we share? We shared the one that T-Town used for Eagle Fest. Oh, can't. Okay. We shared the one that T-Town used for Eagle Fest, and then there was another one that we had found
From another municipality in
Yes.
from another municipality elsewhere.
Yeah.
That had something that we thought was interesting that we shared.
Be that as it may, what I did was just so we would have something to discuss in regards to the application. I merged it with what we use for the Village Fair, used some of the verbiage, and created an application solely for food trucks and vendors
For the concert.
for the concert series.
Okay.
So this is what it would look like. It's just a draft. We priced it out as a suggestion. If a vendor wanted to do the entire concert series, it would be $750. And individual concert dates, it would be $100 per night. That's on the back of page 1. Everything could be set up via the chamber website. They can pay either by check or credit card. And we would handle all of that from our end. A tent would be a 10 by 10 tent. And a restaurant or such could certainly, if they don't have a food truck, and dealing with the local restaurants first, I already spoke to a couple of them just to bounce it off them, and they said it would be a great idea if they can come down. They would really appreciate it. And I mentioned that they wouldn't have to come every week, but they could sign up for the dates perhaps to be considered that they would like to come down. So always going to local business first, and then moving on to any other food trucks. I do believe right now we have one brewery that's interested in participating. They then will have to get an off premise permit from this state liquor authority, apply for that, in which they also need to provide the SLA with a map of the area. So the map that I drew out would be very similar to the map that they would need to submit. The bathrooms are very important in the area of serving. That's something they ask every year. Permits, regardless whether it's food or beer or wine, all permits must be displayed either at a person's booth or at the truck. And the next page I did provide where food permits can be obtained in Mount Kisco. If someone has a food truck, they don't need a food permit. They're already serving. If someone has a booth, they're going to need a food permit to apply. Everything must be visible, and the Board of Health does come with a clipboard and a thermometer, and they will check to make sure that each booth or food truck or such is clean, that everything is displayed, that pricing is displayed properly, and which is a good thing. It keeps everybody on the up and up. A certificate of insurance also is required. It would then name the town of Ossining and the Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce as additional insured. Leaves us all safe, harmless, and they are then liable for anything. That also, I think, would cover the issue that we've had in the past as far as people getting fingerprinted and other types of permitting, which really is more superfluous than needed and that's just our point of view in doing this so many times. So with the application comes the certificate of insurance and the payment. So it's not, okay, I'm applying today and I'll see you 3 weeks from now. Everything comes at the same time. If you're applying, you have to pay the fee as well as have your certificate of insurance upon the submitting the application.
A question about the village's village fair
Mhm.
permitting process. So the food trucks do not have to go through the clerk's office to get a local permit for the village fair or to get an ID card from the Ossining Police?
No, never have.
Village fair?
No, the Commerce Chamber handles it. It's a chamber event.
No, what we get is from them is a certificate of insurance. And anybody with a booth other than a truck, they need to get a permit, a food permit from Westchester County. What we found in the past is that if we begin to charge other fees that really became superfluous, that it didn't really pay for them to come for the day. It just kind of knocked them right out of the box. So all those permits have been waived as far as anything local here. The Board of Health takes care of their side. The certificate of insurance takes care of anything else, and we're all in good shape. Any serving of beer or wine only, no hard liquor. They call them spirits. No spirits. Anything beer or wine, they need an SLA permit. And there is a cost to that they would have to pay on top of that. Setup and takedown, we certainly could talk about times to set up and begin to break down. I know it's different for the fireworks because it's, runs a lot later.
And were you envisioning you don't have the fireworks here at all?
I don't, because I didn't know if that was something you wanted us to consider.
Fine, that's okay.
Yeah.
I
So,
now where did you, out of curiosity, come up with that $750?
well, what we did was we broke it down. So if it was $100 a night and there were 8 concerts, it'd be $800. If you wanted to do all 8, and then if you signed up for all of them, we gave you a little discount on that. The vendors a discount, so it'd be a $50 discount.
I mean, just so you know, from the concert dates that we identified, what this doesn't have on it is, it doesn't have July 3rd and it doesn't have August, I think 4th, I want to say, which is a Sunday. And I'm guessing that's purposeful because there's the fire parade is
Right. Right.
is a Friday
okay.
night. So we decided we would move that concert to Sunday, and that's that first weekend in August. So that's not on here, and I'm assuming again that that's because you don't believe that the food trucks would come out for a Sunday. I don't know.
No, it wasn't on the list that I received. So,
Okay.
It was just an oversight.
No, that's
Yeah,
fine.
we
It's
can
not a
certainly
problem.
put
It's
it in
I mean,
there.
I don't know if it was purposeful or not.
Right.
Could always include it and see if anybody's interested in coming.
Yeah. I mean,
If you're somebody who has a standing night Friday
exactly.
engagement, doesn't have a Sunday.
Exactly. Now, how would you limit or just determine which is it first come first serve, or you look for like a mix, medley? Would you
Yeah.
try to rotate if there were vendors that said that they wanted to, just come for a couple of nights? What because we couldn't obviously fit necessarily every. I mean, it would be great if we had.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Hmm?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah, it would be great if we had more food trucks, but again, we're not sure that we're going to.
Yeah.
$750. Even though I understand where it comes from, $100 a night. For depending again, how many food trucks can we sustain that are reasonable? How they balance each other out depends on and it may be that having more food trucks drives attendance. Which is very, very possible because people are always looking for these sorts of events. I think it's hard to know our first year, out of the.
Sure. Well, what we do with the Village Fair, and I refer back to that because that's a big, an undertaking, and we have regular or traditional fair food, and then we have sort of craft food or farm to table type of environment in the beer and wine area, and we it's like a game of Tetris almost if you've played that. We move people around so there aren't too much of a concentrated area, too many people in a concentrated area, that kind of thing. So when we vet, we know these people, we know what they're serving, and we kind of have them all complement each other. So if we have to say to someone, we can't have everybody in one night, but would you do this instead? That's when we start to play the game of Tetris with people.
Gail, when you do the village fair, though, it's like how many thousands of people? Like we get like 10,000 people, right, at the village fair, and it's an all-day event.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the concerts are well attended, but they don't break 1,000. So,
They don't often break 100.
right.
To be
So
honest.
I'm just concerned that to have, we've had this with other events where we've had more than one food vendor, and if the volume's not there, they don't make enough money.
Right.
And then you're talking about going from like an all-day thing to just a couple of hours. So I think it's a great idea, but I think that we have to be really realistic about even if we doubled or tripled the amount of people at the concert, you're still talking about a couple hundred people at most.
Yeah, I think our highest number, and it was probably with the Riscos, was probably 400. I think that was our high, and it's 400 people for 2 hours or an hour, 7 to 9. That again, you want to bring them in earlier. You want to try to drive attendance or people coming just for the food trucks. So we don't know.
I mean, you could get commuters like,
Right.
going over you definitely could get more people but we also and the parking was actually, doesn't really clear out the same way anymore because, you have 2 restaurants down there during the summer that do a booming business. So the parking fills up almost as fast as it empties. So last year was harder, more people had to park on the other side of the train station to get to the concert.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a good in a way because people are coming down there. But, to me, I see this more viable at 4th of July when you have, a comparable volume of people that you have at the village fair. But I would just be concerned about how many vendors could actually make money with the amount of people we have.
Your point is definitely well taken. It's something we talked about because we realize that you just don't have the size of the audience.
Right.
So those are the things that we need to consider as we vet people and vet the list. Let's see who we get,
Okay.
and then we can see what kind of commitments we may need. I think also too, one of the reasons why the Riscos concert was so well attended, and it's something we also do for the Village Fair, is the social media is really key. So in the application, we asked vendors for hashtags and Twitter handles and all that because we'll put it out there more than, say, for example, our weekly e-blast. We'll put it out there, and then each person who's serving that night, including the band who's playing, needs to put it out there. And we're going to make that a requirement and clear with them because the reach needs to be further than just solely Ossining. It needs to be kind of Hudson Valley, if you will. So we want to get it out there with that.
I saw that the Briarcliff concert series, they didn't just have food trucks, they also had real estate agents and insurance agents and music, all kinds of local businesses that came and wanted to have a small booth for the concert goers to just kind of look and get a free Frisbee or whatever and introduce them to their product. I didn't know if the chamber wanted to look into that maybe as well.
Yeah,
To
exactly.
offset some of the food, because if you have more people,
Yep.
it doesn't always have to be like 10 food trucks competing with each other. It could be other businesses that they want to introduce themselves to
Right.
the community.
So that would be the next letter, which is
Okay, sorry.
thanks
You
for the
can
lead.
skip ahead.
Thanks for the lead in there, Skipper. Appreciate it. This is our sponsorship / partnership letter for the chamber that we use for the village fair. Certainly, we can work on this and make it more appropriate for the concert series, and any input anybody could give us on that would be great. I'm not sure how you did partnerships last year, but if the people who you saw, Liz, at the Briarcliff concert were those who were sponsors, so they got, I believe it was 10 $1,000 sponsors for the concert. And they were local businesses, and those businesses got to set a table up with their brochures or whatever else they wanted to give out that night or those nights. And they were asked to engage the kids to do something, some kind of game or something at their table to engage kids. So those are the businesses that you saw. We were talking about how to best do this. And one of the suggestions that was also made, not only in setting up the sponsorship or the partnerships, that those people would be able to set up a tent and reach out to the community through their businesses, but also if any businesses, so for example, maybe smaller sponsors could leave their stuff at the chamber booth. And this is what we do at the fair, is we ask them to drop coupons off or any specials or anything. We give them out during the day from the booth, and we could do the same thing at the concert series. This is the letter that we send out to our partners. We have a gold, silver, bronze, and friends of the fair, and then I love the fair. So we try to get as many people involved as possible, and ranging from $2,500 to $75. Sometimes, we'll get somebody who will say, I really would love to give, but I don't have that much money. Can I? Absolutely. We never turn anybody away. We always want to engage the community as best we can. So we can use something like this. We can change the actual monetary amounts. It doesn't have to be this high, but then again, we didn't get to that part of the conversation yet, I think, as to what sponsors gave last year. So everything that is done is done in a very organized manner. There is a thought process behind all. And we welcome any input. If you would like us to do this, it would be great for us to be able to then, I know Mike and his group has a budget. If they needed any additional monies to pay the bands, we certainly could take some of the money that we bring in through this to give to them. And then if you would help support the chamber, certainly we would like to bring forth or take in any monies that are made and put them towards other projects in the community, such as beautification projects or any programming that may be coming up.
Right, I thought Mike had said something about like a 50-50 split. Is that what you were thinking?
No.
Okay, so can I just give you one proposal that
Sure.
we sort of talked a little bit about this today within our office to get to a suggestion. We raised approximately I don't know, 45 or $100 to $5,000 last year
Mhm.
from sponsors, and with very little. We promised them that we would include them in any posters or advertising, and they
Right.
were big ticket sponsors,
Mhm.
I think 500 or above. So, and we didn't have obviously a lot of them because you see what the amount is. So because that's what was in our current budget, we would love to be able to come up with $5,000, and then our proposal would be the next $5,000 would be the chambers. So after that first $5,000 coverage for the town, which is offsetting the cost of the concert series, then the next $5,000 raised would go to the chamber, and then above that amount we could have some kind of a split. So that was just a consideration that we thought we would discuss with you. And the other thing that I just wanted to mention, because I'm just glancing at this, I'm seeing it for the first time right now, but for that I would love to see is that was something that we saw at Eagle Fest was to do a zero waste requirement for the food for all of the vendors. So that wasn't something that was actually included in here, but it's something that they did at Eagle Fest. And basically just, we don't want to see styrofoam. We don't want plastic all over. We want compostable, whatever. And I know that might eliminate some, but Eagle Fest apparently had a great turnout. Again, it was a one-day event. So they had like 6 hours. Vendors were there for 6 hours. It's different. But if you're going to have multiple events, you're coming back, you get your compostable bowls and whatever. And that would be something else that I think that, we should be moving in that direction because it's a shanda, as they would say, to see all of the waste that we
Yep.
have from
You're right.
food trucks. And again,
Yep.
just like we do with our CCA, like to start driving demand for, requiring the food trucks to supply and consider this as part of what they do every day. If we have the power to do that, I think that that's, again, a benefit for all of us. in our
Yeah,
community.
we definitely can make that a requirement in the opening letter.
And that's actually part of the application from Eagle Fest
Okay.
that we sent. So if you could just take a peek
Yep.
at that. Anyway, that was a suggestion for the sponsorship money. And I mean, again, it looks like those numbers based on the numbers that you have here. If that's what you're getting for the Village Fair for a one-day event, theoretically, if we were to do a banner or whatever we talked about, maybe wrapping the stage or something like that.
Yes.
It's not going to be able to stay up all summer because it's going to blow around, but we'd have to take it down and put it back up for each of the for the Friday nights.
Mhm.
But that would be, theoretically something that could be very positive for any sponsors that would have that, that sort of that ownership of the event and that advertising. So
Yes, that also did come up, which I think would be great because everybody's facing the stage all night, and to have your business name up there would be awesome.
And I mean, again,
Yeah.
we didn't take in a lot of time looking for sponsorship last year. So presumably, if that's something you have a lot more relationships that you haven't even tapped yet, it wouldn't seem like it would be insurmountable to easily come up with that $10,000, and then we all stand to gain from that for the improvement of this as well as. So I don't know. Again, you can take that back to your board and talk about it, but that's something that would make sense.
Certainly would be a consideration. I will do that. We don't have a board meeting until 2 weeks from now, so I don't know when we're looking to drive this home.
Again, just consensus from the board, what everybody's feeling. If you have anything to discuss, this is an opportunity to talk about it. If you have any thoughts or ideas, reactions.
I think once the band list is finalized, you might let that go out to the food trucks. Maybe, a Caribbean food truck would want to go with the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And,
Yep.
For example, since we haven't released the list yet.
Well, if we have one. But yeah.
You had mentioned before about consolidating the dates. The only thing is like the regularity, like, I could see what you're saying, but there's like sort of pros and cons there because if something's happening every Friday night And now, there's like the added benefit of, being able to go to the beer garden or anything. So, and also the to a certain extent, like the different bands do cater to different audiences. So I'm not saying you couldn't consolidate and do more sort of grander things, but there is, with the regularity of it, you may have,
It's
it's just like, I think that then it becomes like, oh, I came down, I thought they were going to be there this Friday. They're not there, now I'm not, I
Right.
don't know. I would, I
predictable.
think you have to think that through. And I think that the people who go to those concerts, like there are people who go to every single one. So, it is a Friday night ritual for a lot of people who aren't necessarily even the town supervisor who go there. So every Friday night. So,
Yeah, no, we do actually have our regulars, some of whom always sit on the same rock every week, because they choose to. The other thing that reminded me is one of the things we had originally talked about, Gail, was to maybe just do food truck Fridays for the month of July. That was something that I think you had posed for our first year out of
Yep.
the box to see, again,
Yeah, sort of try it
consolidating-
out.
Just have them for the July Fridays because, a lot of people go away in August, and we just might have better success in July. That was one thing that came up as a suggestion. And then the other thing that we discussed was having extending this to other events. So, if we wanted to make have a town permit fee or something like that, or a fee that would then include potentially the hayride, potentially the fireworks, if we wanted to make, try to look at like being all inclusive, or have a flexible fee based on the size that was required by the vendor. So, it could be a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 or 10 by 15, the product that they sell, because maybe the ice cream vendor can't really bring in the same kind of sales as the barbecue person can. And, any needs that they might have. I know for fair, you ask if somebody needs power versus not. So if there are special requirements that they need of the town or the chamber, that would somehow change the fee schedule. The other thing that I just want to be cognizant of is based on your drawing, it's just right now considering, I think, the food vendors and the beer and wine garden, but not necessarily other vendors. So I don't know where everybody's going. That's my other concern. Like, I don't know how many trucks we can sustain plus the vendors and still have room for the audience to actually to see the concert. So I just think that, again, we might want to go down to the park and try to map it out with our parks foreman maybe. And, again, you and Johnny G want to go down there with us, and and Maddie wants to come down. We could sort of think about it. Who has other ideas? And or Liz, because we have boat and canoe club considerations too. So I think that just would be worth making sure that we know what is our maximum.
And,
Some
and
of the trucks
maybe
are bigger than others.
And maybe some of it's marketing too. So, if you start at 5, you're going to be getting people coming off the train who may want to take dinner home. So, so marketing it, there's a couple of different ways you can market this. Like, you can come grab your dinner off the train. You could stay for the concert if you want. You can have, you can be there for happy hour, whatever. There's a couple of ways I think you might be able to capture more people, even if they're not necessarily going to stay the whole time.
Yeah.
Because I think the number of people coming off the train who then might just stop and grab something, they're already parked, they just pick something up. It's easier than stopping somewhere or going home and waiting for something to be delivered. So
One of the things that we do, and that's a great point. The other thing we were talking about was the possibility of doing a ferry run from Haverstraw and partnering with the Haverstraw Chamber and have them come over for one of the concerts and that kind of thing. So certainly, I think the ferry stops running at 9, or last run is at 9, but we can figure that out as we go. And then Food Truck Fridays, you make that a whole other thing. And the possibility of maybe even showing a movie instead of a concert on one night. So you want to keep the Fridays consistent, but maybe it wouldn't be a concert, maybe it'd be a movie out there. So that came up in discussion. I know we want to keep consistency, but
Usually, I mean, I think the movies work better as the days get shorter, because when it's getting dark at 9:30 and you can't start the movie till 10,
Yep.
9:30, 10, it's a little later than most people want to stay
Mhm.
with the kids. So, but when you get to September, it's getting darker earlier.
Right, so that would be after, I mean, I guess we could see if it has success,
Yep.
and we want to do something for September.
Yeah.
And maybe, you know.
how do you feel about not doing July 5th?
So one of the things that Mike had proposed, I mean, one of the reasons that we added July 5th, we didn't used to have the Friday after the fireworks as one of the nights. We added that in because we had so many bands and we were trying to find ways to maximize our nights. But one of the things that had come up from Mike was that maybe we would do a battle of the bands. I'm not exactly clear on if the battle of the bands would include the some of the bands that wanted a place but didn't have one, or if it would include the high school bands. But what we talked about is possibly offering a guaranteed performance next year at the concert series to the band that won. If we did want to do a battle of the bands, we thought that might be fun as a little carrot. And then again, that would be a night when presumably we're not going to pay bands for a battle of bands. They're coming to strut their stuff and win. But that would be something that we thought maybe would be great for July 5th. It didn't hurt. Last year we did have a concert. I don't remember who played or what the attendance was on that particular one. I'd have to go back and look if it was good or bad. I don't know, but I think that there were actually quite a few people in town who were happy to come to a concert that night. I don't remember. I'll have to go back and look. I do
You have the numbers for all the you basically have the attendance for all the concerts.
I mean in my head because I went around counting.
Well, I just thought you wrote it down. I didn't know.
I might have. I have to go back and look at my.
You have the clicker in your hand as people were passing you by, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. We have pictures. I think I took a picture at every concert I attended. So just based on pictures, we can even come up with estimates.
And the weather had a lot to do with it.
Yeah. And the weather.
August was brutal last year. If you remember, we had 102 days, 102-degree days. So that would definitely impact on that. Okay, so next steps. How would you?
I think. Well, let me just get consensus from the board if I can. Jackie, I'm starting with you.
It
In
looks
terms
pretty
of
good.
what you are feeling about what feels right to you about our involvement, partnership with the chamber on Food Truck Fridays, vendors.
I like the food truck Fridays. I'm less enthused about vendors, just from the people that I know. They just want to relax, but maybe vendors work. I don't know, but I like the food truck Friday. I like the getting people there and keeping them there. The only concern I kind of have is if the food trucks, I could see like a tent on this side. We usually have, I mean, they can't see the map, but we usually have the food trucks on this side, on the right side. I'm a little concerned about them on this side, plus tents, plus people walking through. So I'm a little concerned about that, even if it's gated off. But we could figure that out if we do a walkthrough at the park. But for the most part, I mean, it sounds interesting.
I love the idea of getting more people to the river. I love the idea of having more food at the river. A beer and wine garden sounds like a great idea. I think it's a really, innovative, good way for the chamber to get involved, and this could be a really, really good partnership. I think that some of the things that we want to do, and maybe some of the selection of vendors could complement this, like we want to make sure we get as many people down to the river, but we want to appeal to as broad an audience as possible. And one of the ways we do that is by sort of having different, again, every week, again, there's the regulars that go to everything, and then certain concerts play more to different types of people because it's different genres of music. It's you know, there's a dance party for younger kid, you know, people or people who like to dance and, you know, so if we could, you know, that's my only hesitancy about consolidating the dates. Like that's the only thing that I think that there's value in having something that's going on there every week. So if we could look at ways to marry the food truck experience with whatever the concert experience is to build it out. So like, you know, Liz said about having, you know, if we have a reggae night to have Caribbean, Jamaican food, or if we do, you know, just other things. And then also maybe start to appeal. We have so many different ethnicities that food is a big part of all of our ethnic backgrounds, every culture. So maybe that's another way we can sort of look at this too, is making sure that we appeal to the rich diversity in our community by pairing music and food. So I'd want to look at ways we could make sure we were getting a big and diverse audience.
You know, and this is, you bring up a great point, because this is exactly what we do at the fair. You know, in the food area, we don't really have loud music. We'll have an acoustic guitar, we'll have jazz, because people are sitting and eating and they're talking. As opposed to the rest of the fair, where the huge main stage is, and then Market Square, it's noisy.
Right.
Because people are walking back and forth, kids are performing, that kind of thing. So you get to know a little bit about how to do this after you've been doing it for so long. I mean, this is my 10th year doing the Village Fair, so I could pretty much name all 200 vendors by name and their tents by now, and who's serving what, and then the people who try to sneak into things we don't want them to have, those kinds of things. So you get to know everybody, and you're right. You know, if you're serving a diverse community, then you have diverse food, and the food would be awesome with certain kind of music and that kind of thing. So yeah, we would definitely vet and pay attention. Like I say, let's see who we get, and then we can get back to them and say, you know, this is how we're doing it. You know, these are the dates that we want to assign you to. Can you make it on those dates, first of all? And secondly, you know, this is the crowd we're pretty much appealing to that night. So I think that would help make it definitely more successful and get more people down there.
I don't have no comments really. I just, you know, I think that if working together, we'll do it. That's all I can say with it. And that's what we all have to do if we want to make it a success. So, what it is.
Me? Okay, so traditionally we had the food trucks over by the trailer parking.
Yep.
Were you keeping them over there?
No.
They're putting them on the other side.
Yeah, here's the
You're
thing.
taking up parking places?
No,
You're moving the rocks and putting them on the grass?
they're going to be on the grass.
That's why I was saying I have concerns, because people walk through there.
Well, they wouldn't be able to. That's where we would fence them off. Here's the flying in the ointment. That's very important. You didn't have alcohol last year. You're going to have alcohol this year.
That requires the proximity to the
bathroom.
restrooms.
Yeah. So that's kind of where you get into everything has to be in the same area, because they will ask for a map when the liquor licenses are applied for. You have to give them a site map. It can be hand drawn. It's not a problem.
So the distance from across that grass is too far for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because I just thought we had to rope off an area and designate an area, and then
Did that area have to?
as long as
include
there's a bathroom in that area, that we'd be okay. So theoretically, if we were to rope off and designate the entire grassy area, plus the food truck area, plus the bathroom, that would be the area, as long as there's a dedicated entrance and exit.
Yeah. So there's two different things here. If you want to rope off the area, that's a lot of work. We were thinking, and that's what we do at the Village Fair. Literally, they'll walk with the storm fence. The guys will wrap it around the parking meters and the trees, and rope off the area. There's 2 points of egress. One over by Maple, a little past Maple, St. Paul's place and then one right on Spring Street near Chase Bank. And somebody stands there. They may not leave that area with alcohol. And that's something that the police department asked us to do because they didn't want open containers out on the street. And it's been great. As far as this, I mean, we certainly can do that. It's not required. So you also have the situation where people may bring a bottle of wine, which, you know, may happen, and sit on the grass and all that. So
We also have people from 3 Westerly walking around that part.
Yeah.
Again, that is not permitted, just so we know.
Yeah.
We're all very clear. It's
Yes.
not permitted if we rope off an area and designate an area just for consumption of, you know, beer and wine because we're selling it,
mhm.
then
You don't have to rope off the area. What I'm saying is, if
Right.
behind, and Jackie makes a good point, people cannot walk through where the food booths and the food trucks are. Absolutely not. I mean, so we would put the storm fence behind them and rope off that area. So if you have to get into the bathroom at all, you would have to walk from the grass and obviously into the bathroom. So nobody could walk in between there because you have generators running, you're going to have electrical wiring running, like extension cords. They have to have water because they have to keep their station clean. So they must bring their own water.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to have a lot of things going on there, and you don't want anybody walking through.
So you're fencing between the parking lot and the trucks.
Right. All right. So no one could get behind there.
The trucks.
Right. If you want to rope in the entire grass area, that's another conversation. And you know,
If we rope off the whole grass area, can kids be in that area?
Yeah.
I'm just making sure.
Yes.
But I read it off and saying this is where
but
alcohol
Gail,
is.
I think you're right that we would not because it's too cumbersome and time consuming to rope off the entire
It's a
area. So
lot.
we're probably not going to do that.
yeah,
Rope off that smaller area. And I think that's what we talked
Yeah.
So we're gonna put the park.
What?
Just thinking about what we do for Earth Day, because we have to submit a map.
Right, but we don't rope off the area, but it's different because it's a
We
longer
put the
event.
food on the other side
The
of the
whole
bathrooms.
area
Is what we do
is
for Earth Day.
identified.
So
Okay.
just past the bathrooms.
These details, I think that we can definitely work out, and we will work out. But we have to go down there and walk it with our law enforcement as well as with our parks department and
Yep.
and you guys.
And unlike weekend holidays, you're going to have a full parking lot. So
Yep.
you're not going to have a lot of access. You're going to have to map out your route.
Again, I think we should
Yeah.
move on from this particular part,
Mhm.
and just is there any other, if you have any other concerns or feedback about your feelings.
I think it's
Then
a
we'll talk about next
continuing
step.
conversation, so I can chime in that.
Okay, so as far as next steps, it's my understanding that we should have a follow-up meeting to talk about the logistics and how we could make it work, and just narrow down, see if we want to narrow down the focus, if we want to just start this year with just July, you know, every Friday night or not. We can talk amongst ourselves with also with Mike about the July 5th night, if we're going to include it or not, and how we're going to do that. If anybody, you know, if the board has anything to say about that, let me know. But I think that my understanding is that we'd like to move forward with this as something. If we can pull it off for this summer, great. And if not, then, you know, we can talk about for next year. But it sounds like something that would be good, and we just have to work out the logistics.
yeah, it's definitely
Right.
definitely doable from our point of view.
And then as far as the food truck Fridays, as far as the vendors, I think the idea again of allowing the vendors was to try to bring in more sponsorship dollars and to have more of our local businesses help drive people down to the river and help build excitement around the concert series. So my only other concern about that is just logistics. Where are we putting all the booths? How are we fitting all the people? And that's my big concern. So if we can go down there, I think that all it comes down to sort of like mapping it out with, you know, whatever.
If you move the food over and.
Okay, but we're not going to figure it all now, but we can talk about it, and your suggestions are very appreciated because I know you're down there all the time. So please talk to me about that. But I'd like to move on because we have a couple of other things to talk about tonight. So if we're going to have a follow-up conversation?
Yes,
Do you have
absolutely.
do you have enough feedback now that you feel comfortable?
I absolutely do.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're
You're
very
welcome.
appreciative of,
You're
the,
welcome.
of the chamber, and I hope that you are also looking forward to working with the town.
We appreciate the partnership because, as you and I say, we are better together, and we are. We are. So,
All right, thanks so much.
thank
Gail.
you, and thanks for the work.
Gail.
Have a great
Thanks
night.
for the work you guys do for the community too. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so thanks so much. That was very fun. And next we have Anne Marie Rocco is here to give a departmental report from the town clerk
I am here.
as our deputy town clerk.
As Deputy Marianne wrote, our town clerk wrote something out so that I could read it on her behalf.
Okay.
As deputy clerk, I am making the presentation on behalf of the clerk who is unable to be here this evening. The first day of Records Retention Day was held on March 7th, with everyone going through their records and bringing the boxes to be destroyed down to McKinley Room or the hallway here at 16 Croton Avenue. On March 8th, the shredder truck arrived early in the morning. He was able to take the boxes at 16 Croton Avenue and has rescheduled for April, I believe it's April 3rd or 4th, to go down to the court, which the court facility and the police. I believe they have approximately 300 or 400 boxes that need to be destroyed. So it had to be done on a separate day. So thank you to the village and town departments of sanitation and highway. They did a wonderful job. My deputy, Anne Marie Rocco, made arrangements for Robert Freeman, Executive Director of the Committee on Open Government from Albany, to attend a meeting on March 18th for an opportunity for town and village staff to ask questions relating to FOIL requests, open government questions, etc. in the village boardroom. I feel like that was a very successful training session. We learned a lot. He's a wonderful presenter. It was very knowledgeable information, and he's just an asset to the whole presentation. Yeah. Our office is also working on the village's fireman's tax exemption, which must be filed with the assessor's office by no later than May 1st. The applications were sent out quite some time ago and are being returned nicely. They must be approved by the village board and then sent to the assessor's office for processing. Our office is also working with the Board of Elections to locate space for machine training and also locating for space for early voting prior to November general election. So we will have a location shortly. Hopefully within the upcoming months, we're working to see which location will best suit our needs. But we are working with Westchester County right now with that. So there will be early voters.
Well, they haven't passed that yet in the state.
No, but we've,
Anticipating that it will happen
yeah,
very soon with the budget.
that's correct. So we will be voting early. We are also preparing for June primary election. Anne Marie Rocco and Christina LeBou are also involved in learning the iCompass system in the village, which is taking up a lot of time, training time. The iCompass system is a new software program that the village is using for their agendas. We are also going live with our dog licenses on or about April 1st, allowing our residents to register or renew their dog licenses online. This will be a new feature to town and village residents, and hopefully it will make it more convenient. I would also like to take the opportunity to thank my deputy, Anne Marie Rocco, and Christina LeBou for all their hard work while I was out, and particularly for keeping me up to date during my absence. And that is it.
And I'll just give an extra special shout out to Victoria Cafe,
yes.
who's also in the audience, who's
Victoria.
serving as interim town village clerk while Marion Roberts was out, and she also did a great job helping out in that office.
Yep. We all worked very well together. It was great.
You sure did. We're grateful for that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And you don't have to stay till the bitter end if
I
you don't want to.
Don't.
Okay.
I
So
believe Mr.
next
John
up we
Hamilton is
have
up.
John Hamilton, who is our town building inspector, is giving his departmental report. And in case John is looking especially happy tonight, it may be because he has now enjoyed one full week in his new plug-in hybrid town vehicle,
That
which
car
I'm sure
is awesome.
would be a priority in his report tonight.
That car is really a great car. I'm still trying to figure it out. It's got a lot of things on it, but it's amazing because it's a hybrid that you plug in. I think I've only plugged it in twice because it's also regenerative.
Yeah, regenerative.
And so it's been collecting the electricity every time I slow down, or I guess as I'm going. So it's really a fantastic car. Hopefully it'll do well in the snow, but it's really a great car. If we're going to buy environmentally friendly cars, this is the way to go. Really great car. So that's about it.
Yeah, wow. So glad to hear that.
Yeah, it's great. I guess you just want a quick recap of what's been going on. So for the past 10 weeks, we've taken in a total of 68 permits, and we compared that to last year. At the 12-week mark, we took in 55 permits. I've done about 72 inspections, not counting fire, cabaret, accessory apartments, and complaints. If we add them in, we're well over 100 inspections so far. And last year at this time, we had taken in 60. So we've been very busy this year. Our revenue line so far is about $33,500. So we're running right on track. I think that as Planning Board releases some of these different properties, that we're going to see quite a jump in that as we go along. The biggest thing that I find interesting, in all of 2018, we took in 15 solar permits. For the last 10 weeks, we've already taken 10 in. So there's a tremendous jump in solar permits this year. And, if this trend goes, we're going to really have a significant jump as it goes along. The tree permits, when we have this arborist, Craig Stephen, are a tremendous success. Craig comes in, he takes a look at them, and he makes a determination if they have to be cut, maybe they can be pruned. He comes up with a lot of the ideas to correct the problem. So he's really a tremendous help to us. I took the liberty of looking at some of the planning board items that are going on now, and the Artisan Park Knolls properties are progressing really well now. They're already through most of the framing on Park Knolls. One building is almost completely framed out, and the other one is starting, and Artis is almost fully framed, where they can then start working on the interior. The SPCA, I believe, is in the final section now of getting a resolution where they can start moving ahead. Some of the items that are still in there on Old Albany Post Road, there's going to be a request for single-family residence. On Croton Dam Road, there's also going to be another single-family residence. As you know, we're working on Stormy Town Road for a 10-lot subdivision. Hawks Avenue is looking at a 3-lot subdivision. Again, on Croton Dam Road, another 2-lot subdivision. There's currently 2 houses there. They want to subdivide it over to four of them. Don't know what's going on with the learning experience on North State Road. Everything is completed with them, and we're just waiting for them to come back now. They have all their approvals, and we just need them to come in and get the map signed, and so we can move forward. Same thing with River Knoll. We're waiting on them now to see what the next step is on that. So that's about where we stand.
How about accessory apartments, just out of curiosity?
We have 30 accessory apartments. I've done about maybe about 20 of them so far. I have about 10 left to do the inspections, but we have 30 of them so far.
I'm in application since we passed the new law.
I have one that's about to come to me that's going to be in a converted garage. So it's already starting. Mm-hmm.
All right, fantastic. Board colleagues, might you have any questions?
No props.
He knows he's awesome.
Yeah. Do we have a recent compliment that did you want to share that?
Sure.
Okay.
I ran into a gentleman, met him for the first time. Turns out he was a Bedford contractor. And while conversing with this gentleman, he said, "Wow, you're from Ossining? You have the best building department." And I said, "Town or village?" Anyway, I said, "Really? What's so great about our building department?" And he said, "Well, you know, I was working on this house. It had a fire down on Old Albany Post Road, so then I knew it was a town." And he said, "You know, usually I have to wait weeks for a permit, and And the inspector came right out and got me a permit within the week, and I was able to start helping this family. And he walked me through everything that had to be done and noticed some things that weren't up to code and pointed them out, so I didn't end up finishing and then have to go back, and told me that, oh, you're going to need to get this done for a CO. He said the girls in the office were incredibly helpful. They answered all of my questions.
He might have said girls, but we'll say.
You know, take it as a. No, he mentioned Sandy and Margaret by name. That he had quite a lot of questions after the fire, and the process, and that everybody was incredibly helpful, and it was the best building department in the county. So
I'm glad to hear that. Thank you. We
Very
have a small department, and we're more family than coworkers. We really are, because we're so tight all day long. We're there all day long. I'm there more with them than my wife. So we have a good team, I have to admit it, and we've tried to streamline the process as much as possible. And we really have the philosophy that we're there to help the public. We really are. You might walk out of there where you couldn't accomplish what you wanted, but you know that we tried to help you to accomplish it, and said, well, we tried everything we could, but it just can't work that way. So we really do try, and my staff is really fantastic. I'm very fortunate to have them.
he pointed that out. He said, the owner had wanted this, but that wasn't allowed.
Mhm.
But the inspector said, but you could do this or you could do that,
Mhm.
and it said you were just very helpful in guiding the process. So.
Yeah, well,
And that you
I'm
were
glad
nice,
to hear
and
that.
even when you had to say no, you weren't, condescending about it. So
No, I'm glad
I was
to
impressed.
hear that, because most of the time, as you know, we don't hear things like that. And so it's really appreciated, and I thank you.
In general, I think I would say that all of our dealings have always been, you're very practical, very honest, and you are solutions oriented. So
I have a Ford Fusion. You have to come with me one day in the car. Have you seen it?
I actually drove it before you did.
Oh, it was you. It had 100 miles on it.
No, I literally drove it around the highway department trucks.
I don't
That
know.
was
It had
it.
100 miles on it.
Well,
It's
I had
really
to get
great.
there from Long Island.
Yeah. No, I hope the town looks at them in the future if they need to replace vehicles. I really think it's the way to go.
Well, we're still working on getting more pure electric, because ultimately pure electric is still the better option as they upgrade and make them easier. There are more places to charge them. They run longer on a charge. That's still the goal, because ultimately there's a lot less maintenance that you need when you have an all electric vehicle. And if we can find ways to generate energy more sustainably, it's still ultimately better for the environment. Even though I've had a hybrid for quite some time and I love my hybrid, and when you need to have the ability to go however many miles without concern, that is something to consider. But for a lot of people, they're using their cars for the first and last mile to get to and from the train station and other things like that. And electric, and same with the town. A lot of our the uses in the town are very localized and not needing to go long distances. So those are the kinds of things where an electric fleet is preferred even over the hybrid, even though I know the hybrid's great.
I have a
And-
question.
Yes.
Just sheer actual don't understand it question. Wouldn't it be better to have a car that produced energy and charged itself as opposed to when you had to charge? Wouldn't that pull less off the grid? Well, he's saying the car charges
Well, it
itself.
charges up on its wheels, but you still need to put gas in it.
Yeah.
You have to put gas in the car.
But
Without-
doesn't
without
it
the
mostly run on electric?
No, and you have to it's better if you plug it in every night than if you don't, because you're then getting more. You're using more of the electric for the plug-in versus the fuel.
Oh, okay. I thought it produced enough of a charge to charge itself.
It does recharge when you brake and when you coast and things like that. Like, it does recharge, but you still want to be plugging it in.
Okay.
That's what I've been told. But we can get more information, and so okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you have any questions? Okay. Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
know you
Good
had
night.
to wait around a little bit tonight, and we appreciate it. And we're sure you're going to be weighing in on all those vendors at the waterfront. So we'll get your opinion. Thanks, John. Have a great night.
Thanks, John.
Bye bye. Hope you coast all the way home on electric charge. Okay, so next up, we have a conversation about the Ryder Park dog area. So I think everyone's familiar with the Cedar Lane Dog Park, but for many years, there's a small area that was formerly designated as a wiffle ball field has been serving as a sort of a dog run, a fenced-in area at Ryder Park. Last week we had an incident at the dog run because somebody came in with many dogs all at once and intimidated a few people in there who had small dogs or one dog, and there was a little of a fracas. How do you pronounce that word? Okay.
Fracas.
Fracas. Thank you. Fracas. And
It's a fracas.
fracas.
Okay, it was a fracas.
Fracas. So I know that there's been conversations. The Rec Advisory Board has had conversations about this. I don't know that we've had any conversations about it amongst ourselves. I reached out to Mario to get a little bit more background information, which I'm going to read to you because he shared with me a little write-up. And then I also had gotten some feedback from Bill Garrison, who's a recreation superintendent, as well as Kevin Sylvester. So I'm just going to read some of this information to you so that we can have a little discussion about it. And then Councilwoman Shaw, if you want to weigh in from your Rec Advisory Board background, that would be great. So from Mario, after having several complaints and actually witnessing an altercation on Friday the 15th of March and having to call the police, we've locked up all the gates and put up no trespassing signs for now at the dog run. The fenced-in area on the big field behind the caretaker's house at Ryder was supposed to be a wiffle ball court. Money was given to the town by the Morningside Association. I don't remember the year, but I believe Mr. Chavokas was town supervisor at the time. So the money was used to put up the fence and supposed to become a designated wiffle ball area. It never took off and was never used. So maybe about 3 years after, 3 years ago, we were having issues. I think it was more than that, but whatever. Some years back, we were having issues with people and dogs on our baseball fields. We put up signs on all the fields to keep the dogs off, and we're telling people to use the fenced-in area that wasn't being used for anything. We put up the same sign/rules that were used at Cedar Lane Dog Park. When Chris Soy, who was the superintendent of recreation at the time, was here, he suggested we take the signs down because it wasn't officially designated as a dog run. The signs help us because when there are rules that people have to abide by, then there are rules that people have to abide by, and we have a right to enforce them. I think the issue that Chris had was that the rules hadn't actually been formally adopted, so even though they were posted, they weren't official. I know a lot of residents liked it and use it, but after having several bad encounters with dog walkers, they aren't using it as much. The two options I see are to make it an official dog run with rules similar to those at Cedar Lane, or take it down, which I have heard is what the Rec Advisory Board has suggested. I feel that taking it down will then have issues with dogs on our fields again. I don't see anything else going there at this time without doing some proper drainage in that area. Right now, this time of the year, it's super saturated. Hope this helps. Then from Bill Garrison, he suggests to call it a dog run versus a dog park. It's smaller and will also allow us to put in different rules than the dog park if necessary. I would also just leave the area open without any toys or obstacles. Leave that for the dog park. In general, the discussion about the need to get a permit should happen. It's not fair to those who follow the rules and go through the process to get a permit, while others just ignore it or simply may not be aware that they're supposed to get a permit. If we're not going to enforce, I would suggest to do away with the need for a permit. Still have established rules like dogs need to be licensed and spayed or neutered. And from our police chief, I think you need some regulation to keep it from becoming overrun by dog walkers. Some combination of the following. Restrict the number of dogs a person can bring into the park. Restrict it from being used by dog walkers. I'm not sure you can really accomplish that. Require a license for every dog, already on the books but not always observed, and require users to register with the recreation or the clerk that will allow us to track usage and ensure licensing / shots. And now to Councilwoman Shaw, if you have any other additional comments.
When the rec board initially talked about it, I think the consensus was to take the fence down, but there is a concern that people will be using it anyway. I kind of like the idea of the dog run, and I don't know that we've discussed that at the rec advisory board, but I will bring that up at the next meeting. But I think there should be some registration like the dog park at Cedar Lane. I think we need to keep it consistent. So there should be some kind of regulation for that. As far as keeping dog walkers versus owners out, we've never been able to do that at Cedar Lane, so I can't imagine we can do that there. But I like the idea of making it a dog run, having signs.
We could limit the number of people, the number of dogs.
It could be your own, the dog that you own is registered to you only. You know, the dog that lives in your house. That way a dog walker can't bring 10.
Or you could just say you can only bring in 2 dogs at a time.
Or 2 dogs.
Right.
Yeah, I think the 2 dogs at a time is easier than.
I do too, because especially because what if somebody only has their dog walker going? You know, they don't have time to take the dog anyway. What?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, right, exactly. Who's going to enforce it? That's right. That's a good point.
Okay, 2 dogs. That's just
Okay.
as good. And
Okay.
local residents only. Because these people come up from the city with 10 dogs.
Okay, so local residents.
with 10 dogs.
Oh, they do. Their dog walkers do. They've come up and find the local dog parks and overrun them. That's what used to happen in Cedar Lane. And the verbiage did stop a lot of that. I mean,
Really have to be worth my while to drag up from the city with a car full of dogs.
well, if you're getting paid $30 a dog and you got 10 dogs there, yeah.
Do we have to adopt a local
There's
law?
Central
Is this
Park.
a rule for the parks? I'm not exactly sure what we would actually need to do for the dog, to identify it as a dog run and then start to require permits to go in.
Well, licenses are required, right? Are permits currently required for Cedar Lane?
Come on up. Victoria Cafarelli, join us.
There's a permit that you're supposed to get to kind of register your dog for Cedar Lane Park.
So we would have to look at the code. I know some of this is just done by, applications and forms, and sometimes the board will set application fees or permit fees. I haven't looked at the code with respect to the specific issue to see how it's currently being addressed, but if you want to adopt regulations that are going to be enforced by the police, if that's the direction that you're going, what kind of penalties are you contemplating for violations?
Good question.
Out.
Fee of some sort of
Like
a
some sort of fine or fee?
Yes.
Yeah, there are different ways to handle it, and it's something that we can look into in terms of implementing something in the code to the extent that there isn't already something there. I never had the reason to look with respect to dogs. Sorry.
No, that's
Have we
okay.
ever looked into having a card, a select?
I-
I
yes, I
would really
think we
like to
actually-
have that.
I did ask Mario to get a price. I can't remember if he came back to us yet with a price because we just got a bunch of prices for locks and doors and things. And that I asked to be part of the if we could come up with some sort of a figure. I just don't remember. I don't think we got that particular thing. You don't remember?
I remember talking about the boat launch. I don't remember talking about that.
No, I talked about it for the dog park specifically because I thought that what we could do, just like we were talking about doing for Cedar Lane Art Center, which is that when somebody gets a permit, we could have like a fob system.
Exactly.
Where then when you're permitted, it works, and when your permit runs out, it goes off. So you have a year or whatever that you purchase.
That's what the
Where
boat
you-
club does.
That would be ideal.
That's what the boat club
Right.
does.
It's,
As soon
the
as your time
problem
is
is
up, it
it's
goes off.
expensive. I believe it's expensive. So we just need to find out what the cost of that is to see if it's worth it. And then I guess we would want to do the same thing. The only problem is I think it's a lot lower and easier to hop over the fence. I'm not positive. At the dog park at Ryder.
Yeah, but with your dog, it's harder to get the dog
Ryder,
over
it's
the
lower,
fence.
though. The fence at Ryder is lower.
Okay, but lifting the dog
that's what
over
I'm
the
saying.
fence,
Yeah, it's
depending on the
lower-
size of your
lower.
dog. Okay, look, if you're that
Throw it.
determined, then fine.
Okay, that's wrong. Yeah, you throw it to your friend. Sorry.
I'm
He
pretty
or
sure
she.
Chris looked into that and it was expensive.
It's expensive. That's I think.
I can
That's
ask
why
the
we
boat club
never-
what they're using because I know that wasn't expensive because we have no money.
Okie doke. Let's find out from the boat club. That's great.
We have electricity. That's the thing.
That might be a problem.
Well, if it's behind Larry's house,
I mean, I think yes.
then
We have
maybe.
lighting, so
yeah, we'll ask NIPA.
Yes.
Yes. We could, the one thing that I just wanted to mention too, I don't know if this is on the books in the town of Ossining, but when I worked in the town of Newcastle, there was a law in the books that each resident, you could only have up to 3 dogs harbored within a house. I don't know if that's a law on the books here or where that came from, but it might be something to consider if you're determining how many dogs you can bring into the dog park. If you say 2, but legally you can have 3 in your house, maybe you want to keep it at 3. I don't know, just something to think about and see what it is here. I don't know what the law is here, so.
I know Councilman Feldman will know this, but I sadly do not. So if I register for the dog park, am I registering me as an owner or am I registering Fido the dog? I'm registering.
Fido the dog, but it's one family fee. But each dog is registered.
Same with dog licenses.
Don't the owner have to be down there too? You can't just register.
Oh no, Fido can't go by himself.
Fido has to go
A
with
human
somebody,
must
but it doesn't
accompany him.
necessarily have to be somebody. So
Right.
that's a question, right? So say you have a dog walker who lives outside.
That's where I'm going. That's
outside of the town.
Right. It's the dog that's registered, so the dog walker could take the dog because it's the dog that's registered, not the owner.
But don't you have to produce your dog license, which would say what municipality the dog license was issued in and presumably the name of the owner of the dog, unless dog walkers are registering their dogs here.
From other municipalities register for the dog park.
Right, but you probably have to produce something from the clerk of the municipality where you live and have registered your dog to prove that the dog is licensed, which would say what the name of the dog is and the name that the license is registered under. So you couldn't walk in as a dog walker and say, here, I have a license for this dog that belongs to somebody else. You know what I mean?
You'd be walking in with the permit that you got from the rec department.
But I'm saying when you get the permit from the rec department.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. When you present your license, then
And your shot record.
you would know who the owner of the dog is. Yeah.
So there is
I
a
miss them.
dog chapter of the code that actually has a lot of provisions, including licensing and fees. So it may be worthwhile to look at this, and I can give you guys a summary of what's there, instead of talking
guessing.
more in hypotheticals. And then the other thing is, I'm pretty sure there's something in the zoning code about animals generally, to Victoria's point. I think this came up when we were talking about solar farms and there was like talk about pigs.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys
Hey,
remember?
goats.
That? Goats. Okay, goats. It was some farm animal.
Goats eat everything.
I don't remember if there was anything that specifically regulated household animals or specifically dogs. So that's something that we can look into too. And then it may just provide some direction for, if you know what currently exists, it may be easier to determine what's working, what's not, or what direction you want to go. But I mean, I'm not trying to halt the conversation. I just.
No, but I'm sitting and listening to this because when Javoka was here, I believe we had probably the first dog park around.
Down with the pool at Cedar Lane.
Yeah, it's Cedar Lane, but that's been a couple of years ago, and I don't remember exactly what happened and what always happened. But I know that we got a lot of feedback, from people. They wanted to know how it was done and what we done to do it, and because it was basically the first one that was that we did,
Right.
and laws and regulations and fees, I have no idea. But when we get into the other, we're gonna have to look back through some records. So maybe you find out what's going on or what went on and how to proceed.
Right. Well, I know that. Well, Councilwoman Feldman, you know a little bit of the history from the time of.
It was a group of people that had dogs, and when they filled in the pool area, they had asked if they could use that and make that into a dog park. John Girolamo was one of the main people who started that, so he'll have the exact details. And they were able to use the area that was already fenced in for the pool. And when they started to outgrow that area, the community group, the Dog Park Association, raised the money to put the fence up, and Dave's Fences was very generous and helped donate. And, you know, a lot of things went into it, but then they built the area at the top of the hill when they outgrew the area at the bottom. So John Girolamo had the exact way that we did that. And then we started having a problem with the dog walkers. And we realized that also you have to fix the dogs by the time they're, you know, the first rule was a year, and then they lowered it to about 8 months, I think. Where is it now?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Anyway, because unfixed dogs fight more. So they had to be neutered or spayed.
And then it was a friends group that was running it, and then.
Well, that's part of the issue. There was a friends group, and it was very organized, and they kind of patrolled themselves, and they got rid of the dog walkers, and then that group kind of went through an overhaul, and then they were around for a while, and then they kind of disbanded. So that was part of the issue. They were kind of policing themselves for a very long time,
Right.
and then once that group disbanded, that's when a lot of the dog walkers came in, because it was a less policed group, I guess. Self-police.
So the issue is the dog walkers are bringing in multiple dogs?
Yes, and
That they don't have control of.
exactly, it's more of the they don't have control of. So you're there with your single dog, and your dog is very well behaved, and then a dog walker comes in with 5 dogs, and you can't keep track of 5 dogs. So, or 10
Okay.
dogs, whatever the
Right.
number was.
So as we look at whatever the rules are, I think there's a couple things that just stand out for me, which is that enforcement is problematic right now without having a friends group. The control of going in and coming out, which I don't necessarily know we solve with a fob, an expensive solution or an inexpensive solution, because somebody could always just say, oh yeah, come on in, and you know there might be pressure to let people in, or you know let your friends, whatever. I thought that people that were non-residents could actually use that dog park. They can. You had said only residents.
No. I meant the one at Ryder Park. The small one, this dog run, I think could conceivably have separate rules than the dog park.
Okay.
I don't know that, you know, the dog run is a place that I don't take Zach to the dog park anymore. He's too old. You know, he'll get hurt. So there's too many puppies bouncing. So I bring him to meet his friends at the dog run. And much smaller, older dogs go there also.
And I think we could also take a look at maybe just, you know, again, we're not the first ones to come up, but we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can take a look at what some other communities have done. I think just in the near term, since this is going to take a little while to implement,
Put the sign up.
put the sign up. You want to
With
just
the same rules as.
put the sign up with the rules that are unenforceable until such time so that we can open up the dog.
If there's
run
a
again? Is
sign
that
with
what you're
rules,
suggesting?
that's enforceable. You can't be here. This says you can't.
Just we can't. I mean,
All right.
you could put a sign up.
You couldn't just put up a no parking sign and just say, yeah, it's there.
I mean, you can put the sign up with rules, but in reality, without us adopting the rules, the sign isn't really legitimate.
Well, are they just like rules, or are they like laws that you're going to issue violations for? If it's just kind of like codes of conduct or something,
So
you know,
suggestions, we can
yeah,
put something up with
like-
a sign
Something
of-
the Parks Department can point to and say,
right.
the rules are,
Dog run
you know,
etiquette.
exactly like
Yeah.
something that you know people just kind of understand is just societal norms or something.
So maybe what we can do is we can look at what the rules were that were posted and make a decision if they are something that we could just reframe as codes of conduct or doggy run etiquette or something like that, and at least temporarily so we can open it up again. And then if we have problems still, then we'll just keep it closed. Does that sound like it makes sense? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so with that, could I have a motion to go into executive session? And I'm just seeing if there's anything else that I needed to mention before we close our meeting to the public, which I don't think there is. Okay, was there anything else that you can recall? Nope. Okay. May I have a motion to go into executive session for advice of counsel? All those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Please join us next week at 8688 Spring Street for our regular meeting. I think we might also have a couple of departmental reports, and we're going to reopen our public hearings on the Project Forward local laws number 2, 3, and 4 to change the positions of elected highway superintendent, receiver taxes, and town clerk to appointed positions, which we are still considering public opinion to see if we will put those up for referendum to the public at some time in the future. We're also going to have a cake because we have a retirement and a very dear member of our town staff for many years, almost 30. Did we say 1994? Mateo Velardo.
25 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
25 years from our highway department is going to be retiring at the end of March, and we are going to give him a little shout out next week at our meeting and have a little cake. So hope to see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.